This episode is brought to you by After the Power. With screen caps of over 160 actors in television and film, After the Power brings you up to speed with your favorite Power Rangers actors after they've left the spandex behind. Check it out at afterthepower.blogspot.com.
You know, I don't have so much insight about him. They were very close in the beginning, for quite a few years. When I was working with the show, and then I think Shuki came in, and then Jonathan Chakor. So I worked a lot more with him, but you know, the show evolved and sort of took on. I mean, obviously, when new people come in and new direction and, you know, new possibilities and new ideas, I think everybody just sort of was pitching in and helping. And at a certain point, Haim had to step back from the, you know, micromanaging it. He was looking at it from 10,000 feet, sort of. So in terms of how it evolved, he was at that point making sure that all the other ducks were in a row to make sure the platform for Power Rangers stayed solid. And it did for a good many years. And then, of course, you know, I mean, eventually, you know, Fox Family and sold to Disney, and that's history. And that was a sad parting of the ways, to be honest. It was hard to say goodbye to Power Rangers. And we haven't really said goodbye to it. You know, we still have it's like a child. We're still very fond and very connected. One of the things that I wanted to say, though, about Power Rangers and at that time, and specifically I'm talking now as a mom, we took a lot of heat in the beginning about Power Rangers from the government, actually, and from a lot of child action groups and so forth, because they were thinking, okay, this is promoting violence, which we totally always disagreed with, because the concept was basically karate. You know, I mean, it was more of empowerment for these kids, because they were never shown real violence, although I guess you could say it's aggression, and it's, you know, a lot of hopping and bopping and jumping around in spandex, and that was something that we always had to sort of battle against. From my perspective, the kids were getting empowered by the possibility that good could triumph over evil. And that was the message. It's like an old archetype, you know, I mean, that's what it is. But there was also, it was a multicultural group, which was important to me. And there were girls, which was really important to me. So the empowerment of girls, even back then, and we're talking, you know, more, 12, 15 years, that was not necessarily being promoted at that time, for girls to be superheroes and to be strong, other than, you know, there was only a couple. So the idea that we had female Power Rangers who were superheroes, I thought was pretty compelling. And so I'm going to segue into the fact that my latest book is called What is Your Self-Worth? A Woman's Guide to Validation. And this has to do with women's empowerment and feeling good about yourself and acknowledging your own self-worth, which was a message, to be honest, that Power Rangers was sending way back in the beginning. The storylines were always about finding the goodness within yourself and using those skills and those tools that you had to overcome some obstacle in your life. So, you know, like in Power Rangers, there's always several storylines going on at the same time. So the human storyline, they always had to meet some challenge. And I love seeing girls meet it sort of parallel to the guys in their life, which is the way it is, you know, and that's the way it should be. We're both humans, both on the same track. It was just very forward thinking, I thought, of Power Rangers to establish that so long ago. I was twice married and divorced, but I didn't say that I was twice married and divorced before I turned 34. But I was raped when I was 18, and that sort of that's challenged me in ways that are almost difficult to describe to other people, except for that it silenced me as a woman. It made me insecure. In a lot of ways, it made me doubt my own worth. So I eventually found it. way before I married my husband, by the way, my third husband. But I really realized I had to take charge of my own worth on myself. I had to take personal responsibility for my own happiness, which is what I learned. And some of these lessons along the way, I kept track of, and I decided to write a book about it. I researched the status of women and girls globally, which is harsh and discriminatory in many cases, and I took questionnaires from women all over the planet who answered on my website, what does self-worth mean to them? So I integrated all of these answers into the book, along with stories of my own growth, I guess, my own journey. And then I give women ideas for what to do right now to make sure that they express and expose their own self-worth to the world around you, and to pull in and attract a good experience, a happier sense of well-being and a fulfilled life. We all need to take responsibility for making that happen, because you know what? There's nobody that's going to come and save you. I mean, like, I wish it were true, the fairy tales would work, but they aren't coming. Self-worth is your positive regard for yourself. It's a recognition, a personal recognition that you're good, that you matter, that you count. And not everybody gets this. You know, I mean, society sends all kinds of mixed messages about this, particularly to women, between stereotypes, culturally embedded rules and habits, perceived or established boundaries. These can mess mightily with how we feel about ourselves. Well, in the United States, we have, and in other industrialized nations, we've come a long way. That's true. I mean, but women still only make 77 cents for every dollar a man makes doing the same jobs. You know, we're not represented equitably in the power seats. I mean, more than 80% of the Congress is still men. Globally, women only hold about 18% of all the parliament seats. Globally, we do 66% of the work, only earn 11% of the income. I mean, these are discrepancies that are really obvious. And of course, you just have to look in the paper or get on the internet every day to see the catastrophes that are occurring for women and girls in other nations. I mean, every day. So the way I look at it is, yes, we're making strides, and that's wonderful. So those of us who have found a voice and can use it, and we're able to actually exercise our freedoms, we need to really do that clearly and raise our voices a little bit louder so that we can help the ones who haven't found their voices yet. And my intention with this book is all the proceeds, all my authors' proceeds are being donated for women's funds and women's projects, everything. And on top of that, I'm making a huge donation of my own money, $10 million I'm putting in the Self-Worth Foundation to specifically help women's funds and women's projects. Raising women out of poverty will be the very first step. So I'm very committed to this cause. What's particularly funny? All of it was funny. I mean, I have to say it was the silliest kind of stuff to do. But I'm thinking of my husband, actually. Chaim would always, if we would get too serious on the set, because, obviously production can be serious. I mean, there's time, there's budget, there's everything. And especially when we were talking about sort of the dramatic things that were going on legally around this, Chaim would just laugh, and he would say, when we'd go watch everybody shooting and watch the kids working and the actors, he said, this is a bunch of kids in spandex. I mean, how upset do we really need to be? Taking it back to kind of, this was really for fun. It is for kids. It's meant to be entertaining. At the same time, push a little story, push a little message. But it was not all that heavy, in the beginning. It was not meant to pound a lesson over anybody's head. It was really meant to entertain, lighthearted, where there were winners who were the good guys. That was it. The good guys win this one, and we wanted children to be able to feel that. So I can't remember a particularly ha-ha story. Just to let you know, the whole thing was a giggle.